Okay, welcome to part 3 where we finished off doing our Lazy Daisy. So I have just finished that flower with the 2 layers of Lazy Daisy, and then what you do is just leave that gap in the middle for your satin stitch. And I've got my needle threaded up with 3 strands of black, and I'm doing the same as we did for the red flowers and just filling the shape with, in this case, horizontal, but it doesn't matter what direction they go in, just all the same direction. And this is a really tiny bit of space, so it won't take you long to fill this. But just stitch those stitches next to each other and just create the center of that flower. So you can just keep going as long as you want, really. That space, but 3 or 4 stitches actually kind of does it. So that's the gold Lazy Daisy, and then this one just has 1 layer of Lazy Daisy, and you'll be able to get 2 layers on this one. And then you do the same thing with the centers with the black satin stitch on those ones. And then what I have forgotten to tell you in the instructions is that the second part of the Lazy Daisy are these little purple flowers, and they're very similar. The stitch is the same, but we are just doing what very kind of like sparse little daisy-like flowers. So we're not stitching them in the same way as this. They're more spread out, more kind of spiky, but I'm going to do that now and show you that now. So I have 3 strands of lilac, and I'm just going to show you how we do these little actual Lazy Daisies. So it's just the same stitch. You're coming up and going back down very close to the stitch you came up, and then you're catching your loop with a little stitch, but instead of filling the shape with stitches, we will just do maybe 5 all the way around to give it that daisy feel. And then the centre of this is a French knot. You do have to make sure you don't go back down the hole that you came up, otherwise your thread will just pull back through. So you can see that's starting to look like a daisy. I'm just going to do a better view of that. So your starting stitch is always in the middle, back down as close as you can, keep a loop, and then secure your loop. And that is the little daisy stitches. You could also just do running stitches if you wanted. You could just really do nice little simple spiky flowers. That would also work. I think the whole thing with this design is you really can, if you want to, and you have a better idea for a stitch for a certain flower, you could just go for it and do what you want. You could even do a satin stitch on everything. The whole thing in satin stitch, it really is up to you. But that is how we do the little purple flowers. And then it is a French knot to fill as the little centre of the flower on these, but I will show you the French knots on the peach section, so we'll go over French knots next, so that I can show you more than one at a time. French knots. So these peach sections are all filled with French knots, and then we have our long stitches that become the stalks. So I'm going to show you how we do a French knot. Now, bear in mind that I've got my hoop on a stand. It's totally possible to do French knots without your hoop in a stand, but it is easier because you have both hands free. Now I'm going to come up through the bottom of my fabric. I've got 2 strands of peach thread on my needle, and I'm going to pull the fabric with my left hand, pull the thread with my left hand. Place my needle on that thread, and then I'm going to go round 2 or 3 times. Let's do 3. Put your needle in very close to the place that you came up, just like with the lazy daisy, and then pull your thread back in, and that will leave you with a nice little knot. So I'm just going to show you that again. I think the secret to this is the direction with which you put the thread around the needle. So needle goes on top of the thread, and then I'm going back 3 times, holding that fairly tight while I put my needle back in very close to my original spot, and then pull my knot tight. So there we have 2 knots. So I'll show you again, because some people find this tricky. But once you crack it and it kind of clicks in your head, you won't have any problem with these. So needle on the thread, 1, 2, 3, hold it kind of tight, back down, and pull it through. So we're going to fill all of these peach little spots with French knots. So that is going to keep you nice and busy. And yet, do the same in gold thread, yellow. I keep using gold. So there's 2 kind of golds. There's your metallic gold. That's not what I'm referring to. It's this gold that I'm referring to. So gold for the centre of your purple lazy daisies, and then peach for all of your French knots on these peach parts. And I'm going to come back and we're going to go on to the leaf stitch. Okay, so this leaf stitch is really simple. You start at the tip of the leaf. So we're starting at this end, and we're using the shape of the leaf and the centre line to guide us down. That one goes a bit off actually, unhelpfully, to make this leaf shape. So you put your needle, come up with your needle, then go back down, and then we're going to alternate coming up on either side of this first stitch. So I'm going to come up to the right as I'm looking at it, and then go back down just below that centre line, that first stitch, and then I'm come up as close as I can to the edge of the leaf and that previous stitch, and then go back down that centre line, and then just alternate coming up. So I want to fill the shape as much as I can, so I'm going as close as I can to that previous stitch, but also following the shape of the leaf. So your stitches are taking it in turns to come back down into that centre line. Just use the edge of the printed design to guide you as to where to go, and then that centre line. So there are 2 different greens. There are this kind of brighter apple green, and then there's a darker teal green. done a few of the leaves in the darker and a few in this apple green. So just keep coming up, and it gives you that lovely definition down the centre, and just makes it really look like a leaf. Quite silky, a little bit like satin stitch, but with this angled way of doing it. And you just keep going until you fill the whole leaf shape in. So I've got 3 strands of green on my needle, forgot to say that. So you might have to keep going on one side. This leaf is slightly uneven, it's not completely symmetrical, so you might have to keep going on one side once you've finished on the other, just to fill out both sides with thread. So you can see I'm nearly finished on this side, but I've still got a little bit to go on that side, so I'm gonna have to keep going. So this will be my last one on this side. And then I'll just keep adding. On this side until I feel that shape. Do one little more. So that is the leaf stitch. So we have quite a few of those dotted over the design. As I said, some of them are in a darker colour, that's a darker coloured one, and some are in this lighter apple green, but 3 strands of thread for those. So while I've got this green on my needle, I'm going to show you how to do the stalks, which is the easiest stitch ever. So to finish off these French knots, you want to give them some stalks. So that is just a big running stitch, up and down, as many times as you like, to give that impression of a stalk. And then when you finish the section, tie off your thread at the back. So as a general rule, you want to be tying off your thread after each kind of small section. You don't really want to leap from section to section with thread, because it'll become loose and you might catch it as you're stitching another part of it. So always tie off your thread as often as you can, nice and tightly against the fabric at the back, and keep it as neat as you can at the back. So onto the metallic thread, which we're going to use to put flecks all over the cheetah. And this thread is, you'll notice, really different to normal thread. It's not even I've just noticed 6 strands. It's about 12 strands, 12 really small strands in each bigger strand. And I'm advising you to use 1 strand at a time, but you might want a kind of a chunkier look. You might want it to just look a bit more bold. You might not want to spend as much time on it, but still get a lovely golden effect, in which case you could use more than 1 strand. You could try 2, 3 and see how you get on. But this, in terms of the stitch, we are just coming up and down in tiny little stitches, so it almost looks part of the design, and you just get this little sparkle, which is really lovely. So you could really take your time on this. You could really spend ages adding lots of, just lost my thread, lots of little stitches to the cheetah skin. And you will notice it's not the easiest of things to work with, the metallic thread. You can see actually quite well where I've done those. I didn't think you'd be able to see it. I'm just following the kind of line of the drawing with the direction of my stitches, so just following the pattern of the drawing really to add them in. And I think what would look really nice is also some little black stitches to really define the cheetah's face, these dark bits. You could do that in a satin stitch, or what would be really nice is actually a split back stitch, which I will go, I haven't put that in the book, but I will show you how to do that, because that thought has only just occurred to me now. But yeah, just take your time adding lots of lovely gold flecks, and it's just going to have such a beautiful effect once you've done adding in lots of gold. So these are the ones that I've just done. It's a little bit difficult to show you there, that's better without the light shining through. But you can put them everywhere. You can put them on her eyes, and then her whiskers would be really nice to define with black thread with running stitch. So I'm just going to show you what I would do with these little patches in the nose and things like that. I think that would be best with a split back stitch. So a split back stitch is just like a normal back stitch, where you're coming up with your thread. You're not going to be able to see this because it's black on black, but we do 1 stitch, and then you come up a stitch length away from that stitch, and you're going to be going back on yourself. And with a normal back stitch you would go down at the end of the previous stitch, but with a split back stitch you go down the middle of the previous stitch, so hence the name. So it's really easy. So you're just always coming back on yourself with your stitch, and always going back down the centre of the previous stitch. And the beauty of this stitch is that you can just go round and round and round, and you add rows next to each other, and it just fills the shape eventually. So with this shape I would probably go all the way around with my stitches, and then do another circle just in the side of that, and just keep going smaller and smaller and smaller until you've filled that shape. But it's perfect as well for doing little spaces like that. You just fill the area with your stitches. I will demonstrate some more in another video, but what would look really lovely as well are some little kind of running stitches on the tiger's whiskers. You might want to use maybe 2 threads for that, so that they're very delicate. But I mean, you could give her gold whiskers, but I like the idea of accentuating with the back stitch the whiskers. I think that would be really nice. So you can just play around and have fun, and add in as much embellishment as you want to. So that covers all of the main stitches in the design, and you can now get on with those and hopefully rewatch the tutorial if you need to. But what I will do is some more just stitching along, going through, chatting about the different bits that I'm stitching and hopefully helping you with little hints and tips. But if you do have any questions, get in touch on the Facebook group or email us and we will be happy to help you. But I hope you enjoy stitching this one.